Hi, this is Granny Maggie from Granny Magic, and I wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about the spells that are often posted on the internet by myself and by other people on social media. Especially as a new witch, you should not feel compelled that you should be doing every spell that comes up on social media. For example, recently I posted sort of a folk magic kind of spell that dealt with hanging cinnamon sticks over a door with natural string to create some protection. I have not done that spell. That's not what I do around my door for protection. I have posted many memes with various ways to ward the energy around your door, other herbal methods, crystals that you can use, salt, iron, washing the door with various essential oils. There's so many different practices around that. There's no reason if you consider cinnamon sticks to be unavailable to you or overpriced that you should feel compelled to find a way to do that spell or to necessarily have to leave a comment that cinnamon sticks are too expensive, but you're going to do it anyway. I'm like, wow. So to some extent, there's a lot in that spell. There's the number, I think it was 9. What meaning does that have? Why did they choose 9 cinnamon sticks? Why did they choose cinnamon sticks? And if you just did exactly what's on the meme, would that be enough? Is it about the cinnamon sticks? Well, as witches, more and more in spells, new witches become aware that very much witches see themselves normally as part of nature. Our energies are not separate and distinct from what is around us, just like with animals that live in a biosphere or habitat. The same is true of us. So in our magic, we like to incorporate energies from herbs and plants, from crystals, all kinds of things in the world around us. We tend to create our own little habitat of nature that we're a part of and connect out into the universe through that. And I know there are people who say you don't need any of that. And, maybe that's a certain kind of witchcraft. But we're not a brain in a petri dish. It's not all about us. It's about our connections and our networking. And for most of us, our mind alone is not enough. We need these other energies to influence our energy and to bolster it in the directions we would like it to go. Because magic is very much about changing the existing path of something towards where you want it to go. It's very much alchemy and transformation and making things better than they are now. Hopefully not just for yourself, but for other people as well. So that's why when you look at a spell, you look at the ingredients. And if you don't have the ingredient, you have some choices. You can search on the internet and get some fabulous lists of correspondences and substitutions. I regularly advise people to do that, although many don't seem to have done so. You can look them up even on the internet. It's pretty quick and easy. So you can decide that even though no two plants have the exact same energy, footprint, there are some that are close enough, or there are some that actually vibe with you a little bit better, especially if it's a plant from your own yard or grows in your area, or you feel a pull to it. They all have elemental correspondences, energy correspondences, and there are substitutions that can be made. Sometimes you can even substitute an essential oil. Sometimes you can also substitute a crystal, not just another herb. There's a lot of ways to go about this. And as you begin to work with spells, you'll see which things call to you the most. And especially with the cinnamon spell, it's very simple. There's not a lot of steps. And the person who wrote it didn't set it up into a big ritual. Partly that's because it's folk magic. It's just something people did because they understood the strong energy that emanates from the cinnamon and how that accentuates whatever energies they put out towards protection. But you could even make it more complicated. If I were to do that cinnamon spell, I probably would use some essential oils on the cinnamon sticks. I might even make myself some fiery wall of protection oil and add to it, depending on how strong I needed my protection to be. I would probably light a candle because I tend to draw strength from flame. And I would focus very strongly on my intent of protection for the energy around my front door. And then I would create the cinnamon hanging, focusing that energy, will, and intent. And I might even, I'm trying to think of the right word for it, charm it in a sense, because I would probably say a little protection chant, and then I would thank the cinnamon sticks. I really would. I would thank them. And then I would hang it because that's my approach. But because the meme was so simple, you could do almost anything you wanted with it. But people still got hung up on the term natural string. What did that mean? If it was hemp, would that be okay if it wasn't dyed? If it was dyed a color, would that make it unnatural? You could go on, on and on. Well, if it was a natural berry dye, would that make it more natural? Could you then have color? And really, I think in this case, it served two purposes: and aesthetics, and partly because everything we do in witchcraft, if we use natural strings and natural cinnamon, if we want to bury it later or dispose of it in some way, it's going to biodegrade in a natural and healthy manner. We're not creating more junk in the universe. But it's not the important part of the spell. I think part of it might have also been aesthetics, because I see a lot of people making herb bundles for smoke cleansing, and they use acrylic yarn. And acrylic yarn really, doesn't smell good when it burns. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look natural. And when I see that, I just kind of back away. That's not what I would choose to do. Do I say something to that person? Do I speak out against their herb bundles? No, because to them, it's not a big deal. You have to decide that for yourself. The other thing I'd like to bring up that came up about this cinnamon spell that was sort of interesting. Somebody wrote, "Oh, they're so expensive, but I'll do it anyway." And I thought, wow, if you live somewhere where cinnamon sticks are truly out of price, okay, or where they're kind of unavailable. I don't know where that country or that place might be, but sometimes that happens with ingredients in a spell. I think it comes up a lot with clover, although they're referring to dried clover usually. But if you don't have that and you don't relate to it, skip the spell. There are always spells, many choices for anything that you would like to do. You don't need to do a spell just because it's listed on social media. That doesn't make you more of a witch. I don't do most of those spells because I have different ways of doing things too. So very much, there's not even a need to comment, really. When you see a spell that for some reason doesn't appeal to you, you can click like if you want so that that poster stays on your feed. That's sort of a nice thing to do if you respect the poster. But you don't need to comment, "Oh my God, this won't work for me because," and they give their little negative list. Just let it go. No one's asking you to do every spell that they post. No apologies necessary. No excuses necessary. And especially if you're a very new witch, when you see a spell that doesn't have a lot of steps listed, you can do that spell usually very closely to the way that it is written. It means you can dress it up if you want according to your path and your style. For example, I work a lot with ancestors. I work a lot with elemental spirits. And Granny Magic has a Christian background, so very much I will work with angels or saints. And my deity tends to be the Father God, the Mother Goddess, and the Holy Child. Sometimes I can take a spell and incorporate different kinds of deities or energies that I would like to complement that spell. There are other times it is true where there are spells written to a particular deity, very clearly using things associated with that deity that you don't know enough about to decide whether or not you want to do that spell. You do not have a relationship with that deity. That's especially true of a lot of the dark goddesses. I met someone who didn't know anything about one of them, but she said, I think I want to light a candle to her because I think it's kind of cute. And I wouldn't advise that. I think you need a relationship with a spirit or an energy or a deity. So when you see a spell that's clearly written with esoteric symbols that you don't quite get, that probably has to do with the deity, and you should give it a miss. And if you're interested, do some research on it. However, there are a lot of spells where you can rewrite and insert your own beliefs, your own symbols, your own gods and goddesses. Almost none of these spells does anybody ever use the way they're written. You need some experience and some knowledge. That's what you get by reading books. That's what you get by always looking up your questions on the internet. You can't get enough information in a comment on Instagram to really understand what's going on. You need more than that. And it's going to be frustrating to you and frustrating to the poster that you're asking all these comments of. And a lot of times we don't have all of these lists of correspondences in our heads memorized. I'm not going to do the Google search for you. I have a life. And so do most of the other posters. And it's up to you to do a little bit of that research for yourself. Own that. Most of us have a notebook. You can have a book of shadows, a grimoire. When you put your spells in that however you've changed them around. The other one, you can put, basic information about your workings and what you do and how it turns out. So you keep a running record so that you develop a sense of what your style is, what works for you. And so as you move ahead with your magic, this thing of, I'm a new witch. You've always been a witch. We all have these energies. You're an uninformed witch. Maybe you're an inexperienced witch in the formal sense. But if you take time, you can relate to the herbs. You can relate to the energies the spell is talking about. And very early on as a witch, you are the catalyst for your own magic. Believe in that. Learn to focus your will. Learn to focus your intent. Learn to reach beyond yourself. That's the most important ingredient in the magic. You. Pick spells that have meaning for you. Most witches do not walk around every day doing tons of spell work. Being a witch has to do with how you interact with your environment and the energy around you. Every day, witches set forth their words or spells, grounding themselves throughout the day when they need it, using affirmations, focusing that will and intent. There's so many things that witches do other than just spell work. So I hope this is helpful. Um, I really want all of you to become confident witches, understanding the purpose of a spell. What is sympathetic magic? What is natural magic? What is ceremonial magic? What is chaos magic? There's so many kinds of magic out there. My business slogan is support for your spiritual path. So the things I post will often address many paths. And there are going to be some that you're just going to say, not me, and you're going to move on. You may even want to go back to those another time. Another thing that will really make things easier for you, I don't have enough room on my phone to keep all these memes available, to keep resending them to you. And what you really need to do is to learn on your phone how to take a screenshot, and then how to save that to a computer, some kind of a drive, print it out, whatever you need to do, copy it down in a book later. Because a lot of people, we can't keep all of these memes on our phones. Sometimes you can search for them. So I'm not trying to be unsupportive when I ask you to do some research on that. It means I don't have a list of substitutions in my head and correspondences in my head. There are thousands of them. I don't have the time to do your Google research for you. And so I will put that back on you in a comment, not to be unkind, but as a reminder, this is your time to do some learning. This is a positive experience for you. And the other thing is, if I can't send the meme to you, it's just because I don't have the storage on my phone. So I wish you much success, and I'd like to support you as much as I can on this journey. My motto is support for your spiritual path. Please go forward. Learn how to express your magic in the way that works for you and gives you confidence to know, to dare, to will, and sometimes to keep silent. Many blessings. This is Granny Maggie from Granny Magic.